What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of the Heir Flow Podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Thomas. I am excited to be back with everyone today. And really, this is the first time since I've started this podcast where I'm really going to start looking at a series. And this is the first series that God kind of gave me based off of some reading, some things that I've been working on with myself personally. So I've been doing a lot of reading around manifestation. And if anybody's ever heard of Neville Goddard, he has a series of books, and I'll have them as part of the episode description, links to my Amazon store if anybody's interested in purchasing those books. But they're definitely phenomenal. I love them. I've started to pass them to my wife and my children. Um, some of them are very short reads, but very powerful reads. So I really, 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 really very powerful reads. I would say it's been life changing because what's been happening for me, and a lot of great things have been going on, is I've been taking the teachings about manifestation with the teachings that I've picked up over the years about faith and really trying to bring all of those together, and just really understand some of the whys, the hows, what's going on when it comes to really manifesting what we desire. And I think that's where this really comes from because it helped me. I'm still going through the process today, but I'm really excited about it because in this 10-part series that I'm going to do, and this is just the first piece of it. So the series is called Manifestation Rewritten, living from the end. And so, this is again the first time that I've really focused on a series from an episode perspective, but I'm excited about this one. So this first episode is called Dream, and you know how I am with acronyms. We'll go and break down some of these acronyms, but Dream It Forward. Dream is an acronym, but it's Dream It Forward. Define it before you design it. And so as we think about what this really is going to kind of go into, it's really understanding that before you can really manifest anything in life, whether it's money, love, health, spiritual peace, spiritual connection, anything with just relationships in general, you have to clearly define what it is that you desire. And that clearly defined piece is what's been helping me to really focus on what it is that I want to happen. And I say that, and we'll dig into it deeper because I think there's some misconceptions about how to manifest. So we're going to focus on kind of the beginning of this. I'll teach you guys about dream. And it's really a 5-step process for aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions to the life you were born to live. And as heirs, again, with airflow, we are born to live our best lives, as part of being joint heirs with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and just understanding what that means. And we were created, as I already talked about in the past, we are created for abundance. We're not created for just to survive. That wasn't our purpose. So we're going to dig into that, understanding that our really main focus on this episode is clarity and then identity-based manifestations. So, as we go into this again, a lot of teachings, a lot of readings that I've done over, the past few months around Neville Goddard. I've also been listening to another podcast by Brian Scott, and those were kind of foundational pieces that I've taken from, recent learnings, but also pairing that with the learnings that I've received from several mentors, several, different pastors, different things that I've learned on faith, predominantly a lot of what I've learned from Apostle Amos L. Howard Sr. at Living Truth Christian Center, just about faith and really manifestation, power of the tongue. And through these teachings that I've done and readings that I've been doing recently, it's kind of really hit home for me. So, just to kind of get started, when we start breaking down dream, I want everybody to understand that, and this is a thought that as I've been going through this, that I kind of pulled out, but the reason most manifestations don't work isn't because you're not spiritual enough. See, a lot of people think you've got to be spiritual or holy than thou. That's not why most of the manifestations don't work. It's because you never dared to define it. And that clarity, that specificity, just really taking it and understanding the direct, this is what I want. So, again, most people are vague about what they want. They want more, they want better or freedom, but clarity is really the signal that you will be able to manifest from. So, sometimes you hear people say the universe, you know, and that's the more, worldly way of looking at it, that whatever you put out in the universe, that's what'll come back, and it's the similar thing, the whole teaching on I think it was called The Secret, and it's based off the golden rule. It all comes down to, in Christian terms, if you look at it from faith and being able to, faith, believing in the things that are not seen as though they were, that's all aligned with this. So again, part of it is being very specific about what it is that you want. So today's acronym DREAM is going to be the foundation of everything that follows for the other episodes. So we'll kick things off, and again, the goal here is really just to make sure that we're being very clear about what it is that we want, but really just understanding and defining things. So our first acronym is D, and D in this is define the desire. So again, clarify the end goal, bring the fuzzy into focus. So that's where you get away from I want to be rich, or I want lots of money. It's really defining, what it is that you truly want. And I'll share some examples of that. But one of the things that Neville Goddard mentioned is you must know what you want before you can ask for it. So a lot of times we go and, we go to God, or, whether if you're not a believer, and, I pray that, you will get that revelation, but whether you're a believer or not, you have to understand that, you know, you have to define really what it is that you want. What do you want? What are you looking for? And be specific about it, because see, what I've learned is that we go to God and we say, God, I want to be this. And God's got all these great things already done for us. It's already there. And he's waiting on us to pull it down and to manifest it. And so we get very vague and just say, I want to have this and I want to do that. And, it's very general, and that's not going to help us manifest what it is we truly want. And one of the teachings that I've listened to from Brian Scott, he said the universe can't deliver a vague order. When you go somewhere, you order food, you don't just go and say, give me, this. They ask you, what is it that you like? And you tell them what you want, and then you get what it is that you want. Very specific, right? So it's just really understanding that being vague it's going to delay the manifestation, because it's confusing to what it is that you truly want. And so because it's confusing, God is like, okay, well, I've got this for him, but it's kind of all over the place. So being very, very specific about it, just understanding that the subconscious, and we'll dig into this a little bit more, but the subconscious can't process uncertainty. So you've got to understand that it needs direction, imagery, and then you've got to repeat it. You have to breathe it. You have to live it. You have to desire it amongst anything else. And there's no physical labor you can do to bring about what you want to truly manifest. Like you can work as hard as you want to on your job. You can work overtime, but for some of us, that still won't help us reach the goal that we really want to manifest. So being very clear about it is going to be very big for us. Some examples, money. So that is one thing everybody wants to be able to see more of for a lot of us, right? Money. And so if you think about it from specific examples, you can say like, I receive 12,000 a month from clients who value my work, depending on what it is that you do, but very specific, 12,000 a month, right? That's very specific. That's actionable. That's something that you can specifically put out there and say, that's what I'm looking for. So wherever you're at right now, that's kind of what you're looking at, is to say, I receive 12,000 a month. So it's really something of an affirmation, right? If you're looking for love, like relationships, you would say, I'm in a secure, joyful, faithful partnership built on mutual trust. So you're saying, this is what I desire, and you're speaking to, but it's very specific, right? For health, it could be, I wake up every day and with strength and stamina. My body feels alive. And people say, well, I don't feel that way. Well, but it's very specific about what it is. And it can be, to the point where you're like, specifically, like, I'm having pain in my shoulder, a pain in my knee. And I wake up every day and I could do everything with that, with that body part or whatever. My body is working as it's intended, but being very specific. If it comes to something like spirituality, I feel peaceful, grounded, and connected to divine guidance. I have my relationship with God is, and define what that is that you desire, not where you are today, not where you've been. You see, that's where you get thrown off. And again, we'll talk a little bit about that further, but it's really just understanding that being specific is very, very much so a key driver in manifesting what it is that you desire. So, the question is, what do you actually want? That's what I'm going to push out there for everyone. What is it that you want? And don't give the watered down version, don't give like, well, I just want world peace, and be very specific, because the real specific outcomes, that's what you're looking for. And then you say it loud, or then you write it down. And some things you may not want to tell other people, but you always write it down. Write the vision, make it plain. That's biblical, right? But being able to speak it as well is important. And it's fine to tell other people that you're around. So, that's the first acronym of DREAM, which is D, define the desire. The second part is R, which is release limiting beliefs. So there's always some kind of inner resistance, right? And you should always want to identify and uproot anything that's resisting. And you may not know this. And one of the biggest things this is where prayer is very important. So a lot of times you hear people talk about manifest, and even some of Neville Goddard's teaching, he focuses on, he basically says that God has already done. He's given you the power. God has already done everything. So it's up to you to manifest what it is that you truly desire. And if you're not manifesting those things, you go to God in prayer. And through the prayer, you ask God to identify and help you and remove anything that is blocking you internally from manifesting the blessings. Because the idea is that we have the power of God. We are I am. God is the great I am, but the same power that God possesses, we have that power. We're the little G's, right? So we should be able to do the same things that Jesus Christ did walking on this earth. And that's why, you know, Jesus always taught, and whenever things were talked about with Jesus, it was always in parables, real, kind of real world breakdowns of what Jesus was able to do. And then Jesus expected the disciples, like, you have the same power. You should be able to do this, and that's kind of where a lot of this is grounded off of. We have God. If we're connected with God, and we have God dwelling within us, we should be able to manifest anything that we desire. It's not waiting on God. It's us doing it. God is waiting on us. So, as you understand about conscious and subconscious, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but your subconscious has, for lack of better terms, a thermostat. So when our desires stretch past it, resistance kicks in. So, if we start thinking about a certain amount of money that we want to get, and we get to a level that we're comfortable with, we'll manifest at that level because there's a comfort, there's a desire. But you can't think, or you can't consciously say, I want $1 million, but then subconsciously you can't see yourself making six figures. However, whether it's a salary, whether you're a business owner, whatever that is. And so you have to get some of those things out of you. And some of that is because of beliefs that came from early childhood, or past failures, or religious teachings, or repeated trauma. So you have some people who've been taught that money is evil. And to really combat that is more of thinking that money is a tool for expansion. So it's putting a different understanding, because if you think money is evil, you're not going to want to manifest evil. So you're not going to be an attractor of money. You have some people who believe currently that they're not attractive enough for love. And you kind of, the flip to that is to say, I attract people who see my worth. See, the focus is not on the past, beliefs that were put in you from childhood. The focus is, where is it that I want to go? Where do I want to believe in? That's your focus. And the one thing that I've learned throughout all of this is that manifestation happens based off of whatever, and this is good or bad manifestation. It's going to be what you accept and what you focus on. That's going to drive that. So, just kind of keep that in mind as you go through the process. You have some folks that say, I've always had bad luck with health, kind of speaking that I just got all these problems going on, versus saying my body is healing daily. And it's saying it, it's believing it, it's feeling it, it's seeing that. And that's why it's like seeing your end at the beginning. That's what I desire. And that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on my current circumstances. I'm focused on this feeling that I have, the excitement to be able to walk with no pain, the excitement of being able to be debt free, the excitement of getting the dream job, or the excitement of making a certain amount of money in real estate, those specific things. Get excited about it, because that's what's going to help to attract those things. So one of the things that you can do as an exercise, and this is something again that I'm doing a lot of, is say your desire out loud. Sometimes we get so ashamed or afraid of speaking it, and if you're around people who don't have the same level of understanding, that's fine. You don't have to tell them, because you don't want to put yourself in any unnecessary warfare. And it can be loved ones. Trust me, I understand. Sometimes you've got to just say it loud, even if you got to go to another room, close the door, go to an area, sit in the car, but say it out loud, because part of it is hearing yourself say it. Some people are so afraid to move forward, or really get to what they desire, because they don't even want to say it out of their mouths. And then once you say it, listen to the voice that follows. What does it say? Because that's going to be your limit. And then that's what we release. So if you say, I want to make $1 million a year, but you get a voice inside or something that says, well, you don't even make six figures. You don't even make 100,000 a year. So how are you going to get there? See, now you've located where that resistance is. And that's where prayer comes in to say, my desire is to do this, because your subconscious is sitting in that fear, and you've got to get the two married up. So it's very important to focus on that. So that's just an exercise, just to continue to do. Say it out loud. Sometimes it's listening to podcasts about affirmations on whatever it is you desire. And again, very specific, and just understanding what are the things that you're really looking for. So moving on, I want to go to the next letter, which is E. And E is envision it as real. Envision it as real. So if you think about it, you have to feel it. What Neville Goddard teaches is you have to feel it. Feel it as real. Feel that you're in that relationship that you desire. How does it make you feel? Feel the feel that you're sitting in the vehicle, driving it up the road. It's sitting in your garage. I've heard some great testimonies in my lifetime, and I've heard where somebody that I'm connected with, they had a vehicle that they desired, and so inside their garage, they kept that spot open and they spoke to the vehicle every day as though it was there. They felt it. They went and they had a chance to sit in it, so they knew what the feeling of the vehicle was. They didn't let anybody park in that spot. No, because they said the vehicle is there. And they manifested it because they were very specific about the trim, the make, the model, the year, all that stuff, and they manifested it. Why? Because they worked through it. They felt it, they knew it, and they envisioned it. They saw it. They didn't hope for it. They experienced it internally now. And that's the difference. Visualization and emotion. So visualization is the tool, right? So you visualize it, you go see it, you look it up on the internet, you know the colors and the packages and all that. I'm speaking specifically for a car, but not just a vehicle, but with that, whatever it is. And then emotionally, your emotions is what activates it. That's your activation key. So you visualize it, and then you feel it. And that's the activation part of it. So think about it from this perspective and envision the outcome that you want using all five senses. And in this, I know this it sounds very specific, but this is the clarity. What are you wearing at the time when you're experiencing whatever it is that you desire, whether it's the relationship, it's the house, it's the money in the bank accounts, it's the job. What are you wearing? What are you hearing? How does your body feel? Do you feel like this sense of excitement and anticipation and just goosebumps? What's the tone of your inner voice? Because this is what drives it. That's the vivid imagination. I was telling my wife the other day, it's interesting because as kids, we come out with such a great imagination. We have imaginary friends, we play, with our toys, and we imagine that we're in, like, for me, like He-Man and Transformers back in the day, and watching the episodes on TV. You go and take the toys and you reenact the battles and stuff from the episodes of the day based off the toys you have but it's almost like you're in the cartoon. It's that experience, it's that imagination that we come out with as young kids. And as we get older, we allow the ways of the world or the realities of things, circumstances, to overtake that, and it takes away our imagination. And that's why it's so important to really get back to dreaming, imagining things, because that's how you get out of the rut that you may be in. And we all experience that from time to time. And what Neville Goddard mentions is that when you envision things, the act kind of impresses the subconscious with a new reality. And that reality is how we live our lives. So, it can be raining outside and, gloomy, but because you're manifesting things, it's bright and sunny to you. It doesn't bring you down. You're calm, relaxed. You don't see the circumstances. You're like, but I'm having a great day. The outside world doesn't, the things that happen on the news, things that go on in politics, government, all these things that are distractions from what you should be focusing on. That is really why it's important to imagine, to dream, and keep yourself going in that way. So here's kind of a visual prompt that I want everybody to think about. Imagine it's 6 months from now. Your desire is manifested, whatever that desire is, not just money, whatever it is that you desire. How are you walking? How are you talking? And then who are you thinking? And that's the key to it all. Okay. The next one is A, and that is assume it's already done. Faith. I mean, it is faith, but essentially you're claiming the identity of the person who already lives that life. And again, whatever it is, you're already claiming it. So, what Neville mentions in some of his teachings is assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So already know that you have it. If it's a car, if it's the relationship, if it's the house, if it's the school that you desire to go to or your kids to go to, see them at the school, see them in the uniform or whatever it is, see them in the environment, in the dorm room, see their bill as, their on their account, that everything is paid in full. Like, see that. See the kids smiling because they're in a better environment than what they may have been. Those are the kinds of things that you really want to start doing, and understand that it's not a lie, but it's a higher truth that you're stepping into, that we're stepping into. So it's not faking anything. Some people say fake it till you make it. No, it's really assuming the identity, assuming that you have it. How would you act? And you may be, and when you receive it, when it does come, when it manifests, you may be very calm and cool about it, not because you're being nonchalant, but because your expectations were that high. You've gone through all these other things, and now you're experiencing what it is that you truly desire. You've manifested it. It's more than just I desire it and consciously I want this. Like, no, it's I'm already living it. So in the subconscious and conscious, I am seeing those things and I'm aligned. And now it's just the manifestation part. So, if you want to think about it from an affirmation sort of thing, I'm not waiting to be rich. I move like somebody who already is. Now, that doesn't mean that you go out there and you drain your bank accounts and you just move in that way. But what it's meaning is, I'm speaking, I have it. So many times I hear people say, man, I'm so broke. I've heard people in the church say, you speak, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, because it sounds good, or it's an emotional drive, which you should. But then when you get into your circumstances, you look at your bank account, he's like, man, I'm broke. You can't you're not going to manifest because your focus is now what you see. Your focus is on the circumstance. So now your focus is I'm broke versus I'm rich. Some people will say, I'm not chasing love. I radiate it. I am love. And when I'm love, I'm attracting love. I'm attracting respect. I'm attracting loyalty. All the things that you desire, you're saying, I am that. You attract what you put out there. So again, it's just walking through that understanding and affirming things. I'm not hoping for healing. I am wholeness in motion. So it's not going to God, say, God, heal me from I'm sick. Because if I say, God, heal me from my sickness, then I'm acknowledging I'm sick and I'm saying that I'm sick. And because of that, that's what I'm focused on. I'm sick versus saying I'm healed. I'm healed. I'm walking in my healing. I am whole. I am focused on that. I'm not focused on the circumstance because, again, as I mentioned, to manifest something, you have to accept it. It's what you accept and what you focus on. And that's if you focus on being broke and you accept that you're broke by speaking it, that's what you manifest. And you stay into that. You may have points. We all have points where we gain more. We get a little bit of here, a little bit of there, but we're not manifesting to the place that we truly desire. God will always take care of us, but are we manifesting what we truly desire? So, one way to think about it, and this is a prompt before we go into the last letter in the acronym DREAM, but what would the 2.0 version of you do differently today? And think about that. What would you say? What would you do? How would you do things differently? Because some of us we'll sit here and say, man, we work so hard, but did you really believe in the dream? Because we can work hard we can work 10 jobs to put our kids through private school. And, it's because of the sweat, and yes, God will take care of us in that. But imagine if you put just a little bit more energy and focus on what it is that you desire. I think about my kids and, my older two kids, my wife and I've shared this story, desire to push them in a better school, in this private school near where we live now. And we were scared because the tuition was expensive, and everything that goes along with it, all the fears that come along with, we go from a public school system that was pretty good, and then we just have this desire to put them in to get them an advantage from environment, education, things like that. And it came with fear. And I go back and I think about it, I'm like, man, if we really would have locked in, like God blessed, we were blessed to be able to pay what we had to pay, and we didn't miss a meal or anything like that. But I always said, what if we were really locked in to not having to pay any tuition? We can just write the check for the tuition for the year at one swoop, or we get, free tuition or whatever it is that if we focused on it, we're very specific about where we have been. So we just think about those kind of things, and like, now that I know, and I've learned better, you know better, you do better. And so that's why this series is going to be very important as we keep moving through. The last letter is M, and M means move in alignment. So we think about the purpose of alignment. Its action completes the alignment cycle. So belief without motion is stagnation. And if we want to really, I want to expand that out, because I think there's a point of that people look at, like you have to force or hustle, that you have to really push this thing and stay up day and night, work hard, work yourself, and toil and sweat to make this happen. And so when you understand the power of manifestations, you know, you've got to move, but it's about sweatless victory, no toil. That's what it is. It's work that we have to do. And then when God gives us, when things are manifesting, whether it's relationships that are going to help us get to that place, we'll see things start to manifest differently. We'll see things start to happen, because now it's not that I need to go work 2 or 3 jobs. It's I need to drive more into what I'm really focused on, what I really want to happen, the amount of money that I want to make to be able to do the things I desire, be very specific. But you've got to also look at where those resistance points, as we talked about a little earlier, what are those points of resistance? Focus on that in your prayer time with God. And then that will help to remove those limitations that will stop you from manifesting. But again, you don't have to force or hustle this thing, but you have to move. And this is really how you tell your subconscious that, you mean it. You mean it. Faith requires a congruent action. So it's like, talk like it's yours, walk like it's yours, and then plan like it's done. Um, I'm working on, I'm manifesting some big things, and I'm not going to share them yet. I'll share the testimony um, once it's done. I mean, it's done from my perspective, but again, once they fully manifest, I will share them. But one of the things that I've learned, and even teaching my kids this, and my daughter, she corrects me because I correct her all the time. But one of the things that I'm manifesting for, I'm like, I was doing some future plans for the summer. And, one of the things that I told her was, yeah, well, I've got to look at this because I've got to do something with my schedule and this, that, and the other. And she was like, but that's not what you're believing. So why are you planning like you have to, you have to do the things that you're believing you don't have to do anymore? And it caught me. I'm like, you know what? You're right. And that's good. That's the good part about sharing this journey with people close to you, like your wife and kids. And if you don't have any, somebody that's aligned and in agreement with you, that truly understands that desire and will help to keep you accountable, those are the people that you can share the vision with. But again, it's just understanding like you have to walk it and talk it and live it like it's there already. If not, then you've got to figure out what's limiting you from talking, walking, and planning or acting like it's there. That's where you've got to do the work. That's where you dig in, and that's where your relationship, just say, what are those things, and help those things be identified and removed. That's the work. That's the work in this whole process. So, if you think about it from, things that we can do from a money perspective, you know, create a budget. If if there's a certain amount that you do and you have a business, do your rates reflect what it is that you desire to make? You could raise your rates. Now, again, this is an example, but some people undervalue the work that they do because they assume that people won't take that and understand their worth through the whole thing, and they don't feel like it's worth it, and so they undervalue what they do just to try to attract more people. See, part of the manifestation is saying, I'm going to attract the right clients based off of the rates that I know I deserve, and then go from there. That's why people get appalled about somebody having a t-shirt company and they charge X amount for a t-shirt, and then somebody comes behind them and says, oh, I can make that shirt for $20, and they're charging $35. But you don't know what work they have. They may, if they got a brand, they've got it licensed, they're set up with so many things. The quality of the shirt may be different, but that's what they value it at. And so you try to cater to people, to the masses, but just focus on, there's customers who will buy whatever goods you're selling, whatever services you're selling based off the rates, and let that be the thing that drives you. What is it that I'm supposed to make, and then manifest the right customers? And then, or if it's a tool, invest in that particular tool. In terms of if it's something that you need to be able to do the work. So if you're a content creator, what platform are you going to use? Invest in that. That's how you can drive towards, improving things. If you talk about love, set boundaries, get rid of those toxic ties, and then date with intention. Don't just date because the first person who came up to you, because, you're so, and I know people say you're married, you understand, I get it, but there has to be intentions involved. It can't just be, I'm just going to go out with anybody, because then, you're not setting what you specifically want. And so be focused on that. If there are toxic ties that you're holding on to that are keeping you from getting to the place that you want to be from a love perspective, you've got to understand that your work is to release those things, drive all of that out of your life so that you can be available for the person that you truly desire. But as long as you keep holding on to those past relationships because you just want them to work, it doesn't happen like that. And so you're missing out on what it is, or the person that you truly are supposed to be with, that is going to meet all of the things that you need. From a health perspective, we can sit here and say, yeah, God is a healer and he can supernaturally heal. Yes. But to manifest the healing, part of it is a process. Join the gym, or set up workout routines that you can do at home. Get up and just walk daily, drink water, like hydrate like a healer. Like it sounds simplistic, but sometimes it's just developing those habits. And through developing those habits, I think we really will start to see things happen. Every time I've tried to lose weight, it was more of me getting in my head, what is it that I wanted to do? And then having a visual of how I wanted my body to look, having a weight goal, and I wanted to lose X amount of weight or this many inches off my waist and all that stuff. And then, understanding what I needed to eat. I went through the whole process of, understanding what macros I need to hit, what's my calorie count, how many carbs I need to have, and then stay within that, and then have something like an app or a spreadsheet or something to measure the success, measure the outcomes. Because remember, you can't manage what you can't measure. So you have to have something in that. That's the work that you do, because then that helps you see, okay, I'm following instructions. Hey, I'm losing weight, or the scale may not have changed yet, but these pants fit differently now. This shirt fits differently. That's the thing that you do. And as you're doing it, you're manifesting more and more, because now you're continuing to see the end at the end at the beginning. In terms of spirituality, again, meditate, fast, fast, true fast. But people take meditation very lightly. And I've started to switch that. Every night I try to go to sleep visualizing, and going back and realizing kind of how my day went, what things went well during the day, and focus on those things. And then as I build out the great things that happened today, I think about the greatness that's coming tomorrow. Work. I'm not going to deal with a lot of the challenges I've dealt with. I'm not focused on the challenge. I'm speaking, what do I want to happen? Great meetings, getting things that I need done on my schedule, great conversations with my team, things like that. Focus on what it is that you desire. And that's where and meditation can help with just getting you there. What is it that you want? If you want to have a better relationship with God, praying is a way of meditation, but also reading God's word. It may be listening to a podcast. I go to bed listening to a podcast, kind of getting my subconscious set for what I truly desire, whether it's prayers, whether it's, affirmations about increasing, or being a better person, increasing the amount of money that I'm able to bring in, being a magnet for money, being a magnet for strong, powerful relationships, being a magnet um, for respect, for love, for all those things that I desire. I love peace. I love harmony, and being a magnet of that, or those kind of relationships. That's what I love. And so that's what I focus on, to make sure that, and instead of worrying about, why I used to be this, and recreating that toxic environment, or focusing on the toxic people that have been in my life. No, I don't focus on that. I look for the good in all. I look for the good in myself. And I believe that everything that's going to happen to me is going to be a positive experience. And that's what I focus on. But as I mentioned, meditating, fasting, journaling. Some people like to get and just write it down. And again, that's always a good thing. And or then connecting with your higher self, through spirituality, through praying, talking to God. To me, that's one of the best things to do. And I try to do something, I get up every day at the same time, and I do a meditation. I go to bed meditating. So I start in my day with prayer and meditation, just because that's how I stay grounded. And then I continue to focus. And then I also have a vision board, and I have specific things that I'm focused on that I want to manifest. And only a few people that are connected with me, mostly in my house, know about that. And it's on purpose, because they're a part of that. They're a part of what I'm desiring out of life. And so that's what I'm focused on. So kind of closing out with one of the last things, with the moving in alignment, is, if your desire was already yours, what's one action you would take today? So again, if your desire was already yours, whatever that desire is, what's one action you would take today? So that's a thought. And that's what I want everybody to kind of go with. So let's go through just really quickly the 5-step sort of guided activation for dreaming. And this is a practical thing. And if you continue to do this, I guarantee we'll all start manifesting at a better way, at a better clip. First thing is, say the desire aloud. Say it. Don't just think it. Say it. The second thing is, identify and release the limiting belief that shows up. The third thing is, and it's important to focus on that, is envision it in full sensory detail. That means from the colors to the I mean, even, for some people that think about cars, the new car smell, um, opening a restaurant, imagine, the look and feel of it, how you want it architected, the colors you want. Think about the dishes you want to make and smell those dishes, what they smell like. You know what they smell like. I'm sure you've had them before. Just think about that. Think about, imagine the customers that are coming in, the conversations that are taking place. Like, focus on those things. And then speak affirmations as if it's done. Affirmations are so important through this process. And we have to make sure that we're affirming what it is that we believe and that we desire. Because if we don't do that, we are totally putting ourselves in a bad situation. So it's very, very important to affirm the things that we desire. Don't worry about people saying that's crazy. You're the one who has to believe it. Nobody else can manifest what you want. You have to manifest it for yourself. So you've got to be able to affirm yourself. And you affirm yourself by saying, I am, and whatever follows that I am is what it is that you desire to be or do. And that goes either way. So if you say I am broke, guess what? You can consciously, you can want to not be broke. But if your I am is always I'm broke, I'm tired, I'm depressed, I'm old, all of those things, that's what's going to come out. And then the last one is commit to one movement step today. What is one thing that you can do right now? If it's just taking 10, 15 minutes before you fall asleep, you're in your bed, close your eyes and just visualize one thing that you desire to do, that you want to manifest. Think of that one thing that you really want to focus on. Let your body imagine it. Close your eyes, hopefully it's quiet where you can focus and just think about what is that one thing, and then feel it, experience it, see it, all of that. And then keep doing that. Keep doing that each day and each day and each day, and saying it, and speaking it, writing it down, put it on a vision board somewhere, whatever it is. Focus on that thing. And I guarantee you, things will start opening up. People will come to you, whether it's relationship, whether it's business things, whether it's jobs. You won't have to work. You won't have to stress. You don't have to dig in and do so much extra stuff. You just focus on it, and then you'll get those Amos 9 and 13 blessings where it's just flying at you so fast. It's making your head swim. Like, that's the kind of work. That's the kind that you do. And that's what will define what you manifest and how you manifest and when you manifest. So I define my desire. And here's kind of what I want to, let me start that over again. Here's what I want you to think through and focus on in terms of how you want to move forward with manifesting things. I define my desire. I release old beliefs. I envision it vividly. I assume it now. I move in alignment. I dream it forward. And when you do that, the universe, the kingdom will flow to meet me. That's when you start to see those things come to you. So I'll say it again. I define my desire. I release old beliefs. I envision it vividly. I assume it now. I move in alignment. I dream it forward. And then everything flows to you to meet you where you're at. So here's a challenge for this week. Next week, we'll have the next episode and we'll talk about that in a second. But, pick one desire this week. Apply those 5 steps we mentioned above. And I'll share them in the description again for those who don't remember, or you can go back and watch the podcast to get those. And then once you have all of that, if you choose, share it with me at Heir Flow Podcast, whether it's on Facebook, or just if you don't want to share it with me personally, just journal it and just continue to focus on that. And it takes a short time. You don't have to make this a long, drawn out process. Be very specific. And one of the things you can do is screenshot your vision. So take a screenshot, create it, use Chat GPT to say what it is you want, put it on a board somewhere, hang it on a refrigerator. What's something that you're going to see, you're going to pass by every day. Maybe you need to record a voice note to yourself with your affirmations. Record it and then loop it. Listen to it at night. Be very specific about it. And then again, you can always, tag me, but let's use the hashtag dream it forward. And I'll share that again as part of the description. But create that atmosphere and it will make such a big difference. So dream is your new foundation. As we close it out, dream is the new foundation. This is the starting point for how we want to manifest moving forward. And then clarity, identity, and movement is going to equal manifestation. Clarity, identity, and movement will equal manifestation. And remember, what you accept and what you focus on is what you will manifest. So, our episode next time is going to dive into those invisible ceilings that hold us back. And this is where prayer will help to one, identify them, and you may know them yourself, but you need help getting those ceilings removed. So even when you're doing everything right on the outside, the episode is called Shift Your Ceiling. What's really holding you back? So again, I'm excited about this. Before I close it off, I just want to share. I'm going through some rebranding. So many of you, I've shared several times about Billionaire Flow. Billionaire Flow is was the clothing line, and it's also what I use on Instagram and sharing motivations. And as I was doing some thought, some thinking over the last few months, I really want to relaunch, but more so focus on really a unified platform. Because I kind of have the Airflow podcast, I got Billionaire Flow, and with all of those things, they're great. But I think it's really time to focus on a narrowed approach. And we'll talk a little bit about that more, but the focus is to really drive towards manifesting, drive towards living the life as heirs and focusing on heirs. So the billionaire piece kind of put, and a lot of people felt a financial piece to it, but it's more than that. It's being an heir, kingdom heirs, where really the focus is. And that's heir spelled ATIR. And that's the genesis of where everything came from originally. And so as always, it's about how do we elevate? How do we continue to evolve? Right. And so through what I'm desiring, it's the evolution of the concept that God gave me over 5 years ago. And now it's taking that and continuing to push it to the next place. So we're going to do this series on manifestation that I mentioned. It's going to be a 10-part series. I mean, I'm excited about this, but then also it's going to be a relaunch and relaunch, but a rebranding. So we will be consolidated under Airflow. Billionaire Flow will transition to that. But even with that, there's no limits, right? Billionaire, but why couldn't it be trillionaire? And it's again putting those ceilings out there. Whereas now it's just the being an heir and manifesting what it is that you are clearly defining. So again, excited about that. Looking forward to the next set of series. And again, I would love to hear feedback from anybody. You can send me an email at airflowpodcast.com, and I'll have all the ways to get in contact with me through the description of the episode. We'll have social media updates to mirror with this new change. Will be a new logo, some fresh designs. I want to come out with a limited edition for apparel and really connect with the community. So I've got 7,000 strong people following me on Instagram, and I'm really trying to grow that and just be different. My goal is to focus on my lane and what I'm good at, and that's motivating, that's inspiring, that's helping to guide people and guiding myself through this journey we call life. And so one of the things I want to sign off with is, and this is a phrase that I'm really living towards now as I'm understanding and I'm digging more into this manifestation journey. And that phrase is, you don't chase it, you align and you become. Again, that's you don't chase it. You align and you become. So again, I'm thankful to everybody for listening. Be looking out for the next part of the series. Again, episode is going to be called Shift. And I'm excited about, what is going to be revealed. And I just pray that everybody is continuing to manifest their dreams. As my brother, Pastor Ty Dillon, he said, dream big. Don't be afraid to use your imagination. Everything that you desire, that you really want, focus on that. Don't look in the rear view mirror. Don't look in the side view mirrors. Look out of that big dashboard or that big front window in your car, and focus on what's ahead of you. Focus on where you want to go, and then see the ending at the beginning, and let that guide you. So again, love you all. Y'all be blessed, and until next time.